One blood-sucking vampire. Oh, oh, oh. Two blood-sucking vampires. Oh, oh, oh. Yes, so Dracula, he doesn't do it for me. Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this episode I'm going to be doing the Anti-TBR tag by Nicole and her books. So let's get cracking. Question number 1. A popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. Easy. 50 Shades of Blah. Seriously, 50 Shades, it's a series of books written by a Twilight fangirl, basically regurgitating Twilight, but set in a different environment with different characters, but basically the same old shit. And here's the thing. Twilight was already shit, so regurgitating shit, second-hand shit, is even more shit than first-hand shit. So although I semi-enjoyed a few moments from the film 50 Shades of Grey, I have no interest in reading that book or any book that followed, and to be honest, it's just a big waste of everybody's time. Question number 2. A classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Yes, I know it's a classic, everyone respects it. If you're a bookish sort of person, you're probably expected to have read it. I haven't even tried. I think my reluctance to read War and Peace, or anything by Tolstoy, is due in large part to the popular perception that it's a really hard book, that it's a bit of a slog, and that it requires a lot of time and patience and possibly intellect. This is undoubtedly one of the main reasons that I've been put off reading it. But honestly, I'm just not that interested in Russian stuff. Apart from The Russia House, which was a movie starring Sean Connery and Michelle Pfeiffer that I really enjoyed, generally, on the whole, I tend to avoid anything involving Russia or Russian characters, Russian plot. It just doesn't really excite me. Oh, I've just thought of another one, The Hunt for Red October, another Sean Connery film. Actually, if it comes to thrillers and espionage and that sort of thing, perhaps I do like a bit of Russia thrown in. Oh my god, I've just remembered The Americans, one of my all-time favourite TV shows, The Americans, which is told almost entirely from the perspective of the Russians. So actually I'm talking a lot of bullshit. I love Russian stuff. I can't get enough Russian stuff. I just don't have any interest in War and Peace, and now, as it transpires, I don't even know why. Question number 3 is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading, and this would be J.K. Rowling. Honestly, even before I discovered that she was a loathsome TERF, I had no interest in reading her books. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's a trans-exclusionary radical feminist. And anyone who argues that she isn't a TERF doesn't understand what that term really means. It is a description. It's a description that cannot be denied. The reason that she is a worse offender than any old Joe Blow on the streets who happens to be an ignorant bigot and says hateful things about trans people is that J.K. Rowling has a gigantic international platform. When J.K. Rowling says something, People sit up and listen, and she is using her platform to spread hate and to spread misinformation and lies. And because she's a very intelligent and articulate woman, she's able to do it in a way that seems perfectly reasonable to anyone who doesn't actually know the facts. And going forward, I would really like to see her disappear into obscurity, which is where she belongs. Question number 4. An author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. Edward Rutherford. Years and years ago, I bought London because it seemed like an interesting concept. It was going to create fictional characters and fictional situations based around a real-life city and real-life situations, starting at the very beginning of time and working up to the modern day. It's a huge, chunky tome, and I thought this looks really exciting. And I think I read a couple of pages of it and then never finished it and forgot that I even had it. And then years later on BookTube, someone suggested another Rutherford book, Sarum, and I bought the book immediately and started reading it, not realising at first that it was the same guy and it was the sequel to London. And I actually read quite a long way into Sarum before I eventually DNF'd it. And I realised that what it is about Edward Rutherford's writing that I don't like is the fact that it feels like a checklist. It feels like he's ticking off historical events and in a very slapdash way cobbling together some sort of fictitious narrative with a bunch of characters as a way of shoehorning in the various historical features. And after a while it started to get really annoying because every time you got used to a group of characters and their particular storyline, suddenly they would all disappear and it would be 100 years later and you'd be introduced to a whole new load of characters and a storyline. And there was a tenuous sort of link connecting the previous characters with the new characters. But the whole thing was very half-assed and it really, after a while, started to insult my intelligence. I like to get to know my characters and stick with them throughout a whole story. I don't want to just see a few pages of their life, just enough to get interested, and then be whisked away to another bunch of characters and never see the first lot again. That's not how I enjoy reading a book, and it seems that all of Edward Rutherford's books are using the same format, so I won't be reading any more of those. Question number 5. A genre you have no interest in, or a genre you have tried to get into and couldn't? Well, I haven't tried to get into either of these genres, but they are two genres which I have absolutely no interest in at all, and that is sports and religion. You will never catch me reading a sports book, and you will never catch me reading a religious book. It's just not my bag. Question number 6. A book you have bought but will never read. Dracula by Bram Stoker. Now, years and years ago, before the internet and before Kindles and any of that good stuff, I discovered that you could get popular classics published in paperback by Penguin, and you could buy loads of these things really cheap. I think they were £1 each or something. So if you had a tenner in your wallet, you could get 10 whole books, and that was very exciting. So I did this. I bought a whole load of Penguin paperbacks, and one of them was Dracula, and to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to read it because it's written as excerpts from various people's diaries, and that format just doesn't hook me. I find it boring, my mind wanders, I need more traditional storytelling, I'm afraid. I'm just not that sophisticated a reader, so reading an entire book, which is basically just excerpts from people's diaries, doesn't float my boat, even though it's Dracula. Question number 7. A series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and have DNF'd. I've got two answers for this one. The first one is Game of Thrones. I'm not sure if that's what the actual series is called, but I bought the first book and tried to start reading it and just couldn't get into it, even though I'm a huge fan of the TV show. I've got every season of Game of Thrones on DVD. I've watched them multiple times. I think it's fabulous. But even though I was a fan of the TV show, I discovered that I just couldn't get into the book. I'm not entirely sure why. I think I just didn't find it a page turner. I don't know. It's a mystery. The second series is Loch Lamora, and I really tried. I read quite a bit of the first book, and even though theoretically it should be 100% my cup of tea, it covers all the type of stuff I like, and there's swearing in it, and it's grown up, and it's not patronising to the reader, and the story should be so much my cup of tea. I love all that type of stuff. For some reason, I just found it unutterably boring. It just didn't excite me. It didn't make me want to find out what happens next. And I think a lot of it is to do with the jumping backwards and forwards in time. I just didn't like the flashbacks. I found that the flashbacks interrupted the story. Every time I was just starting to get really into it, suddenly I was whisked back into another flashback. I actually discussed Loch Lamora and the Edward Rutherford Sarum book in my Battle of the Flashbacks video, which no one watched. But if you're interested in a more detailed discussion about the various ways that 3 authors handled flashbacks in their books, then I suggest you look at that video because I worked quite hard on it. But anyway, Game of Thrones and Loch Lamora were 2 series that I DNF'd. And finally, question number 8. A new release you have no interest in reading. Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. Now, I haven't read Ready Player 1. I don't own either book, and I have no interest or intention of ever reading either book. I discovered these because I saw the film Ready Player One by Steven Spielberg. It was actually filmed just down the road from me, and I had no idea that it was happening. I missed out on the opportunity to watch Steven Spielberg, one of the directors who I've fanboyed more than any other. I mean, when I was a child, I used to believe that I was going to be the next Steven Spielberg. I have always been a fan of Steven Spielberg, and he was filming down the road from me, making a movie, and I didn't even know. I missed the opportunity. I will forever hate myself for that lapse. However, Ready Player One, when I discovered it completely by accident on Amazon, I thoroughly enjoyed. It was a fabulous experience from beginning to end. It felt like classic Spielberg. It was fun. I particularly loved the movie because of all the many hundreds of pop culture references. A lot of the pop culture references were visual. They were bits of scenery or props or things that you recognised from other movies. And that is the main reason that I have no interest in reading the books, because what excited me, what really made my socks roll up and down when I was watching Ready Player One was all the movie references, all the visual gags, the stuff that was happening in the background, the re-elect Mayor Goldie Wilson poster, that sort of thing. So I don't think that I would be as thrilled or excited by similar sorts of references happening in a book. So I loved the movie. If there is a sequel to that movie, I will certainly be in line to watch it. But as far as the books are concerned, I think those are for people who are more likely than myself to actually understand all the references. Of course, I could be completely wrong, and the books could be full of movie references in a way that I hadn't even imagined. But for me, I just really loved the visual aspect of recognising things from movies, and I can't see it working in book form, at least not for me personally. So anyway, that was my anti-TBR book tag. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you next time. See you later.